Oh yeah, so that's me. No, not the big red dino, but the one that is currently running away from it. As I am nothing but lunch on a plate for all the dinos of ARK, including the ones currently chasing my cheeks. Anyway, this is Primal Fear, a mod that adds many new items, dangerous creatures with unique abilities, and deadly bosses. The way this mod works is a tier progression system, so to tame the cooler, bigger dinos, you gotta tame the weaker ones first. And because of how much stuff there is to do in this mod pack, I gave myself a couple of goals. My biggest goal is to finish the mod pack before the 100 days are done. But within the first 25 days, I have to kill a primal. They're the cool ones you'll see me run away from a lot during the start. Within the next 50 days, I have to at least kill one origin. Within 75 days, the first Pickin boss's head must be mounted on a wall in my cabin. And at the end of the 100 days, I will have conquered the mod by killing Pickin the revenge boss himself and crowning myself the new Primal Fear King. Oh, and one more thing. If I die, my character gets reset to level 1. This took me a lot of hours to make, so if you find yourself enjoying this video, make sure to hit that thumbs up and subscribe for more 100 days videos and let's play content. Also, don't forget to comment on your favorite part. I have a lot of ideas and videos coming out and you don't want to miss it, so make sure to join our Discord so you can know when all my big videos drop and take part in the slime community. Now, let's get right into it. Day 1 starts and I spawned into the theater map. I looked around to see any place was safe. Then went about my day collecting materials and got some tools. But if you ever played ARK, then you know there is no such thing as a safe in this game. I got attacked almost immediately after getting basic tools and died. So I had to start over as a level 1 beach pop. I died a lot during this day. No place was safe. But I did hit the Jukum Jamie on an Alpha Dodo and let him straight off a cliff. I made some narcotic spears and we're looking for some vanilla dodos, and on my journey I got surprised by a toxic carno and had to run for my life. I looked everywhere for something weak and vanilla to tame but found nothing. Then night came where I hid under our blanket and waited till morning because monsters don't attack when the light is out. Day 2 I made some cloth armor, found a cave with metal nodes, but it also had cover from the dangers of the outside world, so I made it my new home. I checked under the bed and closet and saw no monsters, so I went outside and found some dead bodies and got some meat from them. Smoked it up and had me some grub for the night. I knocked out a female Stiglimiath. Yeah, I'm gonna butcher a lot of these words, so I'm just gonna create my own names for these dinos. Let's call her Bumpy. I knocked out a Bumpy with my cane of love. It teamed up, so I brought it back home and now it's an egg waiting game. I figured having a male would speed up the egg production, so I went out to look for a male. I didn't find one, but I did find some crystal, so I made a spyglass and ended my day collecting a rune. I guess this is Fjorder's version of an explorer map, so it was a nice boost in EXP. Ran into some dillos, which I tamed and brought back to base and soul balls. And here we are again, waiting for the eggs. Come on, drop me an egg, please. While waiting, I knocked and tamed a pteranodon, which got killed by a demonic thorny dragon almost immediately. It was inching towards my base, so I holed up in my tunnel and made myself some pizza. When I came back, there was an egg waiting for me. I was so proud of my dillo. The next day I had to grind some levels till I got to level 20 by crafting and gathering resources right near base because the outside is too scary. Level 20 is when you unlock metal equipment, and that's necessary if I want to climb up the food chain. Captain's log. I have been stranded on this distant planet filled with these aggressive creatures that seem to be attracted to my cheeks for 5 days now. The creatures seem to be unaffected by the cold of the night, but I am not. My body has adjusted to the environment by sending me signals before night befalls. My balls shrivel up, indicating it will be a cold one. Yeah, it was cold, so I hovered over the campfire so I didn't die to hypothermia. Later I killed some compies that were being Karens, grinded for more levels, and tamed a berry gatherer. The only thing I could find was turtles, and I had just enough levels for a turtle saddle, but it was cost cementing paste, and I'm broke right now. So I had to travel further away from the base where I found some dodos, knocked them out, and sold them. I almost died knocking out a trike. Honestly, this would have been a sad way to go. Made a saddle and went back to base after it was tamed up, then ended the day by throwing out my brand new dinos so they can start laying Papa some eggs. Today I named the trike Tyson and took it out to get some berries. I also made some more narc spears, waited for a while, but my eggs were not being produced as quickly as I wanted them to. So I figured if I get a soul terminal, will speed up production and make it autonomous. I made some healing stews and finally reached level 20. I unlocked toxic kibble and smithy, but I forgot to unlock a refining forge. So now I'm stuck till I reach 21 because I ran out of engram points. I used healing stews to quickly boost me up to level 21. Healing stew is a basic stew that will heal for 5% of health and actually use this a lot. I mated all my dinos and then killed Bumpy because I needed hide for the refining forge. Let's just say she will not be missed. I made some crop plots and preserving bin. Don't really need it right now, but I will need it very soon. I knocked out a turtle and killed it with Trike Tyson for some hide as well. Then I made a smithy, then pickaxe, cleaned up all the metal by me, went up on the hill to collect crystal, only to see a spirit Rex that spawned near my base. I watched the fireworks and just hope it didn't kill me. Spent the night getting crystals and fighting off death from the cold with healing stews. I told you I would use it a lot. On day 7, I finally cropped my crop plots and went looking for a Phiomia and some oil. I had to run away from a fabled theory on my search, and honestly, I wish I marked its coordinates down because it was a pain to look for one later on. It was a very close to grabbing my cheeks, but I went into beast mode like Marshawn Lynch and escaped. Later, I knocked out and killed a thorny dragon and some pegals for some more hide. Then made a raft and sailed to shores. Finally finding a Phiomia, only for it to be next to a corrupted Carno. All I could do was watch it as it was killed. The first Phiomia I have seen all game. There was a bag next to the corrupted dino with a crossbow in it and the dead defense unit. That would be good for electronic. The only challenge is getting them with my life still intact. Eventually I convinced myself to give up and move on, but on my way back, the stego was distracted and allowed me to sneak the bag and body before getting caught. It's my lucky day, because this crossbow will be very useful for the next 30 days. On my way back, a whale attacked my raft and almost broke it. Can you imagine the fear in my heart as my raft's health went down with a family of megalodoodles swimming around me? I thought I was about to get passed around like a plate on Thanksgiving, but these biscuits don't want no buttering, okay? I returned home defeated because I could not get a Phiomia. It sucks, but it's time to move on and up in tiers. As I mentioned before, this is a tier progressive system. I needed to tame specific tiers to be able to tame the next tier. So I made some toxic kibble, which is the next tier after vanilla. Was only able to make 2, so I had to make sure to get dinos that only needed 1 kibble each, 1 male and 1 female. I ran across 2 toxic dodos and 2 minutes later, bing bong, they're mine now. When I got back home, I mated them for eggs. Now it's just another waiting game. They plopped out an egg and I don't know how to get 2 giant dodos make such a small egg, but that's their prerogative. I found a beehive on the ground while continuing my search for a Phiomia. That thing gave me like 80 honey. It was fantastic. I also found a vanilla tech parasaur, and if I find a matching pair, I can breed them for electronics. Luckily, there was a male one a little bit down the road, and after I tamed them, was back on my journey to find a Phiomia. I couldn't find one and lost my raft on the way back, but the universe blessed me anyway with Phiomia spawning right near my base. I tamed it and started to feed it stimberries. That makes it produce a ton of that good. Went AFK while my eggs were being produced, and I guess a primal Carno died near me because when I came back I had some stuff and a primal Carno skin in my inventory. Yeah, I wasn't not going to use it, so I took the potion and put the rest away. After taking both potions, I ended up at level 77, which is a huge boost from me being level 20. I now had enough eggs to make alpha kibble, so I made 2 and went looking for some unexpected alpha dodos. I come across a dodo, but a captain boulder surprises me, and honestly, I screamed so loud my dog had jumped up from her bed just to look at me shocked, like I would dare disturb her beauty sleep. Like, don't blame me, blame Rocky Boy, okay? I got Rocky Boy stranded in the middle of the ocean and went back for my dodo. I used the last of my arrows to knock it out and then make a narc spear to drop the next victim. I actually had to be careful because a nuke dodo spawned right by it, and it could really mess up my entire day. You know those 77 levels? Yeah, I could be back to level 1 very soon. I got them back both to base and bred them to get the next tier, which is elemental. I can finally tame a useful creature. I got some resources, I made a trap, but I'm missing some things for the kibble. I needed to cook prime meat and gather some alpha blood. I make a hatchery to finally hatch these eggs, but I need refertilizer to power it. So I set off on another journey after making a compost. I sold Trike Tyson and then I'm off. Me and TT find a theory to bully but get scared away by an Omega Rex. I kill an Alpha Leech and get a sailor hat from it. Then I hunt down a Thorny Dragon. Next I find a Thilo, which is perfect since they cannot hurt you, and end its life. This fight took longer than all 9 innings of baseball. After I kill it, I get a whopping 5 meat and head back to base. I cook the meat and I need to go back out for some rare flowers and oil. I found some rare flowers by this cool structure and a rune right next to it. I picked up all the rare flowers I could and head back to base. I ended the day with like 200 rare flowers. Fantastic. I made a reusable grapple hook and some narcotics, finally powered the hatchery, and hatched a massive amount of eggs I stocked. The next thing to do was feed them with a trough. Yeah, maybe in hindsight I shouldn't have hatched them all right away, because it took me the rest of the day and night just to claim them and get them out of the terrain, but it was a day well spent. The next day I separated the males and the females of my massive army. I then slaughtered the men for blood and electronics. Horrible, I know, but necessary for my journey. I was now able to make elemental kibble. I made 3 and got ready to tame some parrots. I wish I knew how janky they were, but it was all in the past now. I wanted to go for high level, so I made 1 extra. I saw an electric parrot, but it was low level, and I want to get a high level tame for the first one. Then get a low level counterpart so I can mate them and hopefully get the good stats on the baby. So I had to leave it for now. I went looking forever but couldn't find anything, and everywhere was dangerous to be on foot. So I went back to base and just, gave in and tamed the low level one. I laid out my trap and prayed it didn't kill me. It kept aggroing the trap, which made it hard at first, but I used its aggro to get it in the trap with water to stop it from aggroing. I tamed it up, named it Static, but it needs a saddle to ride. So that was kind of a waste of time, since I do not have the materials to make that saddle. So I sold him and went looking for a different elemental. Before that, I actually saw an alpha, I'm just gonna call him an alpha demo, which could be helpful in taming more creatures and will allow me to travel through the skies, escaping the dangers of land. I used gates to knock it out, but it did take a chunk out of me before that. It was too big to fit in the trap, but I still knocked it out in the water, so I had to be quick. Ran back to base and came back with some kibble to tame it, and I named it Big Red. My goal right now is to tame some penguins for some organic poly. So on my way back, I killed some things and got some good loot. Then went to the winter spot and found a ton of penguins. I killed a couple of them for some quick organic poly and then tamed 2 for a farm. But an origin penguin kind of spawned and killed my day. So I had to stop the hunt and head back to base. I made a soul terminal which will make egg gathering so much easier, and a soul gun. Yes, I know my priorities are on point. I then went out to do some more killing because I needed keratin or chitin for a TP and TP remote. I went out to the volcanic area and hunted down some spiky creatures. I saw an iguanodon kind of just doing its own thing, so I knocked and tamed it for seeds before heading back out. On my way back, I saw a female electric parrot, but I had to formulate a plan because it was right next to a captain boulder and a much stronger light parrot. I had a plan that would require maybe sacrificing Big Red and causing me to die, but I had some level up potions back at home, so I really wouldn't have to start from 0. It would just be annoying. Now, my plan was to get him to aggro on me while I led him to a safer area so he unaggroed. But as soon as his bloodlust was gone, so was he. He went back to the same spot as before once he was no longer aggroed up. But since it was by water, I used the water as a way to trank it. Since it was the safest method, I tested out to see if bolas would work on it, and it did, so I bolted then tranked it. I was lucky because I had just enough arrows to knock it out and the shark that started to attack it. Day 14 was kind of uneventful. I spent this whole day killing tech paras and getting resources, not really much of anything else. The next day I did kill some favorite creatures while I looked for an oviraptor for egg production. I wasn't being careful and killed Big Red while slaughtering my paras. She was one of the best mounts I had. RIP. Spent the rest of my day gathering resources, making potent narcotic arrows and kibble to move on in tiers. I found out that you can make potent narcotic in the primal smithy, and it makes it a lot faster than I do in my inventory. So I did it from the smithy and went to tame some apex creatures. I knocked out an apex dillo and kind of went looking for a counterpart, which I finally found after like 10 minutes of search. Now I can start mass mating them and producing way more eggs. I actually forgot the next 3 days. I don't have the clips for them. I forgot to record. So really embody my narration, while looking at just the random things I did in ARK. The next day I saw an oviraptor and tamed it while on my search for a useful tame. I gave up looking and decided to mass breed the parrots so that I could use excess as resources to make a saddle. While I was doing this, I found out there was a Celestial Rex, Chaos Rex, and a Demonic Thorny near my base, so I had to be hella careful. I even thought about moving. Now that I had TPs, it wouldn't really be that hard. Of course, nothing is sacred in ARK, and as I'm just going about my day, a Bronto comes into my base and stepped all over my things. I put a oil pump on a vein in a cave, which ended my day. After the mass slaughtering of all the excess parrots, I finally had enough to make a saddle. Later, I almost died trying to tame a fabled mantis, although luckily I was able to escape using grappling hook. Gathered some obsidians, then made a harpoon and nets. Wish I didn't do this because they were really pointless. Like, I mean, they were not able to net anything but above vanilla. I found a fabled pteranodon, but the net wouldn't work, so I had to chase it a bit. There was an origin RG and a primal Kentro right next to it, so Careful became my first and last name. Now I finally got it, and now I need a counterpart. While flying around the next day, I actually saw a Goliath Longneck inside a purple drop. That's simply amazing. And after the long search, I finally found a male Pteranodon counterpart. Now it was time for the mass breed. The whole next day was filled with mass breeding and making tranks. After the mass breed, it was time for eggs and feather gathering. I then went on a small adventure where I saw an otter statue with a rune behind it. And while I was kind of flying a little bit too close to land, a primal drake literally one-shot my parrot and me. Almost killed us both. Later, I tamed a fabled mammoth using a grappling hook and arrows so that I will have a tank mount where I can actually shoot off of. And again, pointless mistakes I know now, but I didn't know then. I named him Iron. Then I tamed a fabled Anki and named him Tank. Tank was my metal gatherer, and I used iron to gather resources. On day 23, I tamed an apex theory for blood and hide gathering since I couldn't find a fable. I went to the bathroom, and when I came back, Iron was dead, as well as my parrot. I had no idea where my parrot died or where his saddle was. I then went out, but at least I got Iron's saddle. I knocked out an alpha phoenix, which will help me get resources like pearls. I named him Small Red, and I immediately almost got it killed by an apex defense unit. Phoenixes are definitely one of the best alpha and apex mounts out there because of the massive damage they do, and they're flyers, so land dinos can't really get a piece of cake from them. I was even able to take out some demonics and other things for hiding resources. I tested its damage on a primal and it was doing decent damage, and decided today was the day for me to reach my first goal. It took like 10 minutes, but I got it. First goal is now completed, and I even have some days to spare. The next day I went out to tame a pair of omega creatures for eggs. I figured, hey, might as well collect some hide and blood, so I took my theory out, but there was a spirit rex right next to me. It killed my theory right away. That's great. I luckily survived, but my theory did not make it. To make myself feel better, I did tame a light parrot. This will be useful for feathers until gacha farm. Now I just need to tame a counterpart for the light parrot. The next 15 days were spent doing a lot of different things. I killed a primal raptor, a captain black bolt, and artifacto the great, and almost died to an origin RG. I spent a lot of time gathering resources and building base now that I had some time and getting my farms in order. I also looked for Fable resource gatherers, but I could only find a Dio and a level 145 Theory, but nothing else like gachas. I tamed myself a light griffin, named her Captain Marvel, and a female light parrot, then looking for some omegas, and I found an omega male aloe, then a low level female one, bred them and the light parrots up till I was swimming in eggs. Days 41 through 45 was spent building killing pins for the tech parasaurs and penguins. And I also ascended using one of the artifacts I got from Artifacto the Great. Finally, I was done with my killing pins. Sadly, on single player, males can't be that far away from females like they can on official servers, which means there was no need for the multi-level tower I was planning on building, and I was able to put everything on one level. This contributed to a whole lot of lag. The penguins weren't really able to be killed as babies, so I'm thinking about replacing them. But right now, I'm done with it because I have other things to focus on, like killing an origin. The next couple of days, I went out to tame a demonic Perry. Finally, after a hot minute, I found a level 145 female demonic parasaur. I tranked it while on Captain Marvel, which super helpful, and had to keep running away after it powered up. After I finally tamed it, I kinda went on a killing spree. I killed a primal megalodon and then resumed for my search for a counterpart. I didn't find anything, but I did collect a ton of primal blood, which means more tranks. It was finally day 50, and since this was the last day, it was time to take on an origin. I found an origin Spino in a swamp-like biome. I perched up on a nice little ledge and lit him up using my demonic parry. After I sent him back to the lobby, I unlocked some tech things, but nothing I needed just yet. I got some origin armor in my hands though, which is going to be a nice defense. The rest of the day was spent looking for more demonic paras. The next day, I did find a demonic meso that was level 130, and yeah, I couldn't help myself, so bing bong, 5 minutes later, I am now the proud monkey owner. Maybe I'll dedicate a TikTok account to him later, I don't know. It was now time to go artifact hunting, since looking for natural spawning origins was too much work. I visited every cave, got the artifacts, and experienced hella lag while doing it. I also placed TPs nearby so I can easily go back and forth. On my search for the artifacts, I did find an origin dire bear, which thought I was a nice piece of meat and catcalled. So I did the only rational thing a person could do and sent it back to the lobby with his boy the Spino, okay? Now, the next 5 days I stocked up on artifacts. This took a really long time, but I should have enough to never have to go back again. The next day I went right across from base and found a nice ledge to perch on while I spawned a bunch of origins, then killed them all so that I could unlock all tech things such as the tech generator. I also got a full set of origin armor and a max level potion. For the Wyvern and RG, I actually had to be careful and move away from base, and on my way I actually saw a high level thorny dragon, so you know I had to tame it, but I actually never use it, and I'm just coming to this realization now as I write this script. I grabbed some primal heals and then spawned them, hoping for the best, and honestly, I wiped the floor with them. It was super easy. They barely did any damage to my para. I was no longer scared, and it was now time for the next set of bosses. I went back to my ledge and summoned a bunch more origins and then a demonic reaper. I spawned her in first because I thought she would be an easier boss to do than the Celestial Rex. I ended up killing it pretty quickly, but it had scared me for a moment as it climbed up my perch, and honestly I was sure I would die, but it didn't get to me, and now it's 6 feet under. It was time for the Celestial Rex now, but first a quick pit stop back at base to craft some skins for my armor. Now look at me. I look like a pirate. I'm dripping in swag now, alright? Not going to lie, there was a lot of different skins, and it took me all day and night to pick a nice set and then paint it. We take fashion seriously around here, alright? On day 63, it was Celestial Rex time. Its summons did a lot of damage, but ultimately it was pretty easy. I got a high level demonic, and nothing can stand in my way in this game now. I had the summons for the 2 bosses to tame and make them my own, but honestly I did not have the time. I needed to quickly look for more demonics to take on the next tier of bosses. Now that I have tech stuff, it was no longer just me randomly searching, but now I can actually pinpoint their location with transmitters. I can also pinpoint search for boss monsters to tame to start collecting boss eggs. I spent the rest of the day preparing and setting up my transmitters. Now that it was set up, it was time to search for more OP demonics, egg-laying celestials, and bosses. I might even throw in a couple of phoenixes for free pearls. I did get 1 apex phoenix, but 2 is always better than 1. However, there was no other one on the map. That's just sad. I did however see an Apex Shadow Man, and yeah, I needed that. I went back to base to make some Apex kibble and fiddle with base a bit. You know, I made a helipad so that I can land my flyers, and a water tank for future water dinos, as well as breeding spot with a dome protection. I also made a dune buggy because why not. Drove around for a bit till I got stuck in the water where I abandoned it like a used app. It was now time to go back and look for the Apex Shadow Man. Not going to lie, this really took a long time, and I hate to admit it, but Fjordur is a layered map, which means that it has multiple places with the same chords. But honestly, it was a super fun mount and it was definitely worth it. I really wish I would have got this earlier in the game. Its abilities are super cool, and once another one appears on the map, I will definitely be looking for it to tame. Its attack range is also huge. Well, might as well be broken, but still super fun. From now on, once I get to Apex tier, I'm taming these first. My search for demonics and bosses must continue though. I found a high level para, but it was the worst than the one I currently had. I also found a couple more females, but no male. I did find a counterpart for my monkey, but it was extremely low level. Now all of that was left was for my thorny dragon. Unfortunately, these searches took a long time because I wasn't able to look at the level and gender with the dino scan. Apparently these dinos were hibernating, so I couldn't peep at their stats. So I was literally searching for each individual creature, and like I said before, Fjordur has 3 different dimensions, so it's safe to say I spent a lot of time doing this. I then built a gate in front of my old spot to trap in Spirit and Chaos Guardians, and now it was time to fight them. I spawned the Chaos Guardian first, and wow, 1.1 billion health. It took some time to kill, but honestly, it didn't even touch me. I would love to do this without cheesing it, but I just don't have the time. This fight did basically take me till night, so I waited till the next day to take on the Spirit Guardian. I decided to use the Meso because it has a longer range than the Parasaur, and the Spirit Guardian had 1.3 billion health and a huge range. But like the Chaos, I killed it easily. It did take some time, but I'm honestly just glad I don't have to do this again. Now I have Chaos and Spirit Orbs unlocked. The Spirit Guardian is just one of the worst boss to fight, especially if it isn't trapped. Days 74 to 75 was spent making an actual boss pin because the one I currently have is absolute garbage. So I found a place that was just as flat as my ex-girlfriend to make a long pin because the width doesn't matter as much as length. Or so I thought before I was proven wrong, but you will see that soon. I then started to build. I had to continually go back resource hunting, and for the amount of materials it took, and had to switch from tech to stone, but well worth it. I just finished it as the 75th day was about to end. It was now time to summon the Picken. I thought my boss pin was big enough, but not big enough to hold Picken. So he escaped from the top. Luckily, he was kind of stupid and swam into the dirt, allowing me to pepper him with the poops. I actually took all day and night, but I finally finished it and got an egg, the full tech gear, and ascension pill. Once I put on this armor, I lose my cool costume, but it's well worth it. Now that all those goals were done, it was now time to mate my high tier creatures. But it seems like Primal Fear after Fabled, you cannot mate your creatures by default. So instead, I hatched the egg and went searching for more demonics and celestials and the legendary Pegasus, because why not? Big boy fish's egg was finally hatched, and that means it's time to do some mass dino wiping. I spent the whole day doing this because I was lost in the sauce. You know what they say, no bath is better than a bloodbath? Or is that only what nerds who read action manga like me say? Yeah. I then tamed the high level para. That would be my new mount and 2 alpha dragons. They were both female, but with the mutator I can change the gender of one of them. I don't know why I didn't use this before. Do not judge me. I'm under a time crunch and my itty bitty brain is working as hard as my heart does when I eat 5 Big Macs in one sitting, okay? The next day I was running low on origin tributes, so I spent this whole day killing origins. I took out the RGs with the Pickens, and it was pretty fun but not as effective as a demonic. I then finished the rest with my demonic para after using a max level potion on it. I fixed up the boss battle area because I'm going to need to fight a lot of the Pickens for the next tier of bosses, and I need it to not fly away. On day 80, I took on the Nova Destroyer, and this was a really long and tedious fight. I should have used a Meso for this, but instead I used a para that kept getting slingshot back and losing most of its health, while I had to keep using primal health stems to heal it. Finally killed it, and it gave me a dissension, which I plan on using on a thorny dragon. First, don't know why I did that since I, again, never use it, but stop judging me. It's like 5 AM and my brain is no good. I also hatched its egg. I maxed out my thorny dragon and then sended it. Now I have a fallen demonic thorny dragon, and I named him Toothless. Fire name, I know. I killed some primal sharks with 1 attack with Toothless. Oh wow, I guess I did use him. Take that, everybody who judged me. Nova was now fully grown as well, so I decided to test drive her. And she has cool attacks, but she's a little weak though. The next couple of days I went riding around town for some new tames and moving up in tiers for the next boss tames by taming some apex dragons. I got 2 of them and then started to wait for eggs to tame a spirit manticore. In the meantime, I massacred every tier 2, 3, and 5 boss I could in preparation for taking on the next tier of bosses, which is tier 6. I also descended my other demon dinos. I played around with a lot of loot goblins, and I kept getting them to Goliath rank so that I could get better saddles and loot. I did this a couple of times. I honestly did this for a while because I knew I would need them for the next couple of bosses. I actually got a fantastic demonic parasaddle, which means I don't have to craft one myself. I also got a super low budget Megatherium saddle, and it had a high number of defense. Almost makes me want a Megatherium now. I saddled my para and made a Meso saddle. I wanted to make a thorny dragon, but I ran out of hide. I then tamed the spirit griffin and named it Snowflakes. And now it was time to fight the Colossus. I plan on fighting every single one, but I don't know how my demonic para will handle it. So I will try one, and then if it takes too long, I'll eliminate the map to encourage new spawns so that I can hopefully get a spirit manticore spawn by now. I spawned the ice colossus first, but my cage seemed to be too small, so it walked right over the top. It kept chasing me, but I managed to get it stuck on the cage and lit him up with monkey poop. It didn't take much time, and I only had to use 1 healing on it. I then figured I could continue killing the bosses, so I did just that. I summoned the fire next, and again it went outside the cage, but this time I picked up the meso and put him inside the cage. And it still kind of worked like a charm. Honestly, there was so much smoke without spyglass, you couldn't even see what was going on. Next was the electric one, which happened just with the last. The caustic one was the last one, and I decided to try to spawn him from the side. It didn't work, and again it appeared outside my cage. I killed it, and now it was time for the final boss, Pickens' Revenge. But I had a couple of days left, so I decided to mess around with a few things. I killed the entirety of the map a couple of times using Nova the Destroyer to encourage a spirit manticore to spawn. I took out the middle part of my boss pin, hoping it would be enough for picking. I went around the map again for the next couple, just killing till I finally found a spirit manticore. It spawned in the water for some reason, but hey, I wasn't questioning it. It was an easy shot from my origin arrow. Origin arrow is a one-shot arrow, meaning that as long as I hit my target, it will get knocked down. I shot it and ran like my life depended on it, because it legit did. I finally tamed it, and I named him White Lightning because it basically is a walking natural disaster. I did some other things like fixing up base by placing random plants everywhere and some deco trees here and there. I even placed a group behind the bed. I then placed a platform builder just to see what it did, and it completely clipped into my whole house. Because of how massive it was, I kind of just watched it being built, slowly regretting my mistake. I'm lucky it didn't destroy my building. I made a saddle for White Lightning and flew him around, but causing absolute devastation to my surroundings for a bit. I mostly goofed off waiting for the last day to take on Picking the Revenge boss. Finally, the last day came, and this was it, guys. Last day was here, and I was ready. My dino just came back from their trainer. You know, she told me they was hitting the gym non-stop preparing for this fight, and she ain't never seen such motivation. So oh yeah, they were ready. I made Pickens' Revenge and prayed for the best. I had max level potions in case I die and other demonic creatures, so I was sure I could kill it. I went to the boss pin and steeled my nerves. I spawned it in, but of course it's huge, so the cage wasn't doing any good. It immediately pinned me down, dealing massive amounts of damage. I had to take a primal heal just to live. I eventually escaped from right under it, allowing me to gain some distance. It spawned in attack drones that dealt massive damage at, so I had to keep throwing poop on myself. It was literally a shit show. But they were hurting my meso so much, even with the OP saddle, because honestly, without the saddle, I would never have been able to live. So it was a great idea to hunt those loot goblins. Eventually, I get it stuck on the opposite side of the cage, break down one of the walls, allowing me to enter the cage, hopefully using that against the Picken, which worked for a while, but he got bored and left, so I had to follow him. I mean, this was such a close fight. I had to constantly heal just to survive. He dealt so much damage to me, and I was just spamming poops in the hopes I'd kill him before he killed me. It was a highly suspenseful fight, but in the end I won and claimed the spoils, which was a club that did everything. I ran around at night testing it out. Yeah, this fight took all day and some of the night, but this club is hilarious. Its torpidity mode did 1.2 mil, its hatchet mode did 37 mil, and its damage mode did 848 million damage. Honestly, this had me cracking up, and I decided to go after an origin with it. Yeah, I know I'm technically over 100 days at this point, but it's for the meme, okay? Me versus an origin raptor, and me and the club, we winning, alright? I took a primal heal and just beat his ass.